What's the right car to buy, person to marry, the right career to choose? It's quite complicated. Noticing how you're being manipulated by paying attention. Is there anything wrong with my relationship?
Social media, our families, our friends, the experiences we have, so many things that are out of our control are shaping the way that we think, we feel, and how we experience our lives. How do we know what's right for us? And are we listening to ourselves?
No matter where they live, people's opinions and ideas are all flowing around and people are sharing them and having them as they grow up. So we're always influenced by each other. That's part of being human. And so when someone stops listening to other people and starts paying attention to themselves and what they're feeling and how it feels to have those feelings in their body and what ideas, thoughts, expectations, etc. come up with those feelings, that is a very good way to navigate what a person wants and needs. If you're listening to opinions of friends that are making you feel anxious or sad or in some way lacking, I guess the thing to do is to pay attention to what ideas are coming up that associate to those feelings that you're having. Feelings are kind of our navigation tool, I think, in life, and lead us to where things are coming from in terms of ideas and expectations. Then you can make an evaluation of how valuable, how meaningful those ideas are to you in your life. So you don't want to live a life that's somebody else's life. And in social media, there's so much exaggeration or looking like their life is very superior to others, or in some way it's compelling. I wish I was living that life. And yet all of that is a fabrication to some extent. It's not 100% real, right? People scroll through things very quickly and they're looking at stuff, and they're also looking for things that have emotional content. And the things that have emotional content are things that trigger innate emotional responses that we all have. So fear in general, that's a big motivator. That gets people to do things. So if we want to get someone to buy something or make a choice that's going to put money in someone's pocket, you're going to want to get them feeling like they don't have something. So that's imposing an idea on them, even though it might not be true. So what ideas do you want to affiliate yourself with? Why is something compelling to you?
So I think that's a great thing that you mentioned. You talked about being in touch with the feelings that come up when an idea is presented to you. So my question is, how would I be able to distinguish if that's an authentic feeling true to like my values, or if that's something that's being imposed by expectations of society or what I've been seeing on social media?
So you said something about an authentic feeling. I'm not sure if feelings are inauthentic. If we're having them, they're authentic. But maybe what you're referring to is the idea that's evoking that emotion in me. Is that idea true? Did it come from a reliable source of information? Did it make sense? Is it logical, reasonable? Is that the way things work in the world? Let's say, for example, your mother or your sister doesn't like someone you're dating, and they might get in your ear and try to convince you that they're a bad person. Or maybe in a group, right? Somebody doesn't like somebody else. So they might try and talk about them negatively to other members of the group to try to get them out of the group. And they might exaggerate the negativity to make it look worse than it is. They might convince people to throw that person out of the group or divorce their husband or wife. That's another example of how ideas can generate strong emotions and then convince us to do things.
So then in that example, say I'm dating somebody and I'm really having a great time, but my friends don't like them. How would I then understand if I'm being influenced by the suggestions of others around me, or if that's what I am really starting to think?
So foundational to the neurocog system and NURI, you want to step back. You're sort of on a roller coaster of emotions. Sometimes that's really enjoyable. You can kind of lose yourself in the emotional thrill of what's going on. A lot of our ideas, thoughts, feelings are not completely in our awareness level. So when we start paying attention, bring our awareness up, we start noticing, hey, we're having strong feelings. What's driving that feeling? Well, I have this really, really powerful thought, this thought that's supercharged, that's making me feel strong, strong emotions. Well, the neurocog system teaches us that that is likely not to be the most reliable of ideas to be considering. And it's time to take a look. You step back. Maybe you need to do a breathing exercise. Do a relax, relax yourself. Now start thinking more calmly about the ideas. You can have the same idea two different times in your life. One time it's really getting you very upset. Another time you're thinking about it in retrospect and you realize, wow, that idea was not very good. It was exaggerated. It was distorted. I shouldn't have believed it.
So for example, with that dating situation, I've stepped back and I've assessed the situation, and I recognize that my friends are influencing my opinion on a certain person. Then how would I use that elevated self-awareness to then navigate with my family and friends who are influencing how I think?
First thing we need to realize is that we're being told things that make our emotional state very, very strong. And what are those emotions? So we need to identify them. Well, I might be feeling guilt. I might be feeling shame, fear of making a mistake or disappointing my family. Ideas that push those emotions really high are ideas like, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I shouldn't trust my judgment. Maybe they see something I don't see. And so all those emotions are stirring up along with these thoughts. The way to make sense of all that is, again, that first step, noticing the emotions, then stepping away from them so that you can see what they are, describing them, and then seeing the relationship that they have to the ideas that are promoting them, and then evaluating those ideas. Then you can look at the person who's saying them and asking yourself the question, well, why would my mother or my brother or my sister encourage me to have negative feelings about this person? Well, I think they care about me. I also know that often people have perceptions of people that aren't based in facts. So now I can start to analyze their point of view in retrospect to having analyzed the idea and realizing the idea is not fact-based, it's more opinion-based. Now I can set those aside and I can look at the facts and say, okay, well, is there any justification? Let's give my family members a benefit of the doubt. Is there anything wrong with my relationship with this person? What do I know? This person remembered my birthday every single year, or this person forgot my birthday every single year and never bought me a gift and I bought them a gift, and sort of that kind of thing. So you stack up the evidence and you kind of take a sober look or kind of a more reality-based look at the situation. And now that I'm not all sort of emotional about it, I can think a little more clearly. And while I see some of their points, I kind of disagree at the same time, which gives me maybe a conversation to have with each of them. Or my conclusion might be, you know what? I think they have some valid points, and maybe I need to talk to my partner or my boyfriend, my husband, about the way that they're treating me. Or maybe I need to end this relationship.
So it all makes logical sense, but I've been in situations where I have taken that step back, but then in the moment, it's really difficult to have these conversations with people that I really care about.
Yeah, so I don't want to give the impression that you just stay in your head. So you need your logic and your reason. You don't throw that out. It's not an either or. And you don't just go with your heart. You combine them. Emotions are important to pay attention to. So, in fact, that's the key element. Something is getting us upset, right? It's worthy of looking at.
Why do you think we have to keep preaching this message to get people to be more aware of their emotions? In society, is there any resistance to being in touch with how we're feeling? You mentioned something before about just throwing the emotion away. Is that something that you see happening a lot?
It's the human condition. We're all in the same boat, right? We don't really understand entirely what it all is about to be alive. And it's a bit mysterious and a little bit frightening and a little bit exciting and everything in between and wonderful and horrible. And the reason I think that people often forget to pay attention to their emotions has a lot to do with the fact that we're encouraged not to pay attention to our emotions. We're encouraged to be logical and reasonable and all that. Even our, society in general is kind of structured that way. Everything's supposed to make sense. You're supposed to be, making good, sensible decisions. It's difficult to know because we don't have enough information quite often. What is a sensible thing to do? What's the right car to buy, the right person to marry, the right career to choose? It's quite complicated. But we can rely both on the emotional experience we have to help direct our choice, but also to help us to analyze our choice as well, because our emotions, when they're very, very high, tend to steer us in certain directions. So if we're fearful, we're going to be more avoidant, more not wanting to take chances. If we're happy, that's okay. But if we're overly exuberant, we might do something that might seem like a great idea or a great purchase at the time, get all excited, then realize later, wow, I was just really, 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 really happy. And I probably didn't make the best choice there.
So I wanted to ask as well, in our increasingly evolving digital age, how do you see the role of self-awareness changing as well?
So you could think of it as a sort of an inoculation, which is what a vaccine is, right? So when you are exposed to something and then you lose any confidence in it because it fails, for example. So some people would go see a psychotherapist and have a terrible experience. And then from then on in, they're inoculated against psychotherapy. In other words, it'd be very hard for them to get any benefit from it. So that's a negative thing. But at the same time, if you inoculate yourself against, let's say, being judged or being bullied, right? And you transcend that experience by realizing that you're being manipulated psychologically, motivated by emotions, that the thoughts you're having are not reliable. You don't have to be scared of that bully. That bully's not really a threat. They're just using techniques of intimidation. Then that's something that you can inoculate yourself against by using these kinds of techniques that are in the neurocog system. You start noticing how you're being manipulated by paying attention to the level of emotion that's being evoked and the ideas that are evoking it, and then the quality of those ideas and the quality of basically where they're coming from. Is that a reliable source? Is that person's motivation something that needs to be taken into account? And that would affect how much you would believe or rely on that idea. Like somebody tells you, this needs to be done right away. Well, very, very insistent. Okay, well, does it actually need to be done right away? And you can only really understand that after you've calmed yourself down enough to think clearly. But the automatic response would be like, okay, I'll get it done, without thinking. So your awareness level has to then bring you to an understanding that, okay, hold on, somebody else is feeling anxiety. They are then trying to get me to alleviate their anxiety. A lot of people do that. Okay, I'll fix it. I'll do it. I got it. Leave it with me, blah, 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 blah. Well, hold on. Okay, let me just calm down a little bit first. Maybe I'll do a breathing exercise. Okay, now I'm calm. Okay, let me think about that. So they said this, this, this. All right, let me analyze that now. Something like that. This is the kind of thought process that you can go through. And again, I'm trying to make it simpler, but it's not easy either. You have to practice these skills. And that's why I created the system. Neurocog system means you have to go step by step and just acquire the skill and then see the relationship. And then you've got the system under your belt. Once you acquire all the skills, the cognitive, sensory, visualization, and emotional skills, then you've got the whole package and you can work it to overcome being pushed around by society, by social media, by friends and family to do things that may not be in your best interests or theirs.
I have a scenario for you. Sometimes when I'm consuming social media, the algorithm will generate content based on things that I already believe in. Is there a way that I can take that step back and realize, hang on, it's something that I believe in, or is this something that is being told to me over and over again?
So I would say that the algorithms don't know what you believe. The algorithms, what it's reflecting is your behavior. So you might have a habit in your social media behavior. You're acting without awareness. And that could be leading you to then be fed the same type of content in your social media. It's an opportunity actually to use this tool in a way that would give you more information about yourself. So if you play with it, and as opposed to letting it just sort of feed you and you're just like a passive, yeah, it's like sitting back and watching TV or just like scrolling through the channels. You're not being an active participant. Being an active participant, you'd be paying attention to, oh, well, that made me feel a certain way. Wonder why I thought that. Oh, is that true? Oh, that's kind of not true. Oh, that was interesting how that got me going there. Huh? So you're just, in other words, you're taking a step back again from yourself and paying attention to your behavior. And I think it's a more interesting way to use social media, is to use it as a tool to discover both how the algorithm works, but also how you yourself are experiencing different types of feeds.
And I think what you were saying is a great way of how the Neuro app and neurocog system works. My experience is I feel like social media is designed in a way to make us consume it much more passively than we'd like, maybe. So if we're doing these exercises or having that self-awareness, we're able to maybe engage in a much more intentional way.
And you can use Nuri with other things you do. You can do an emotion log, do a before emotion, do some social media, do an after emotion, and then look at the log and see how it made you feel and discover more of who you are. Figure out what it is that you need to make your life more enjoyable, and treat yourself with the same compassion, kindness, empathy, care that you would anyone that you love in your life, and do things that make you feel better and enjoy your life more.
That was Dr. Steve Wolfson on The Good Shift. Thanks for listening to today's episode. We hope you found it insightful. Don't forget, you can listen to more episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. For extra tips and updates, follow us on Instagram and TikTok to learn more about the Neuro app. Download the app to access exercises that enhance your emotional awareness and help you make better decisions aligned with your life goals. See you next time.